After making various mods of the Gen 3 games, it's time to break Pokemon Platinum as well by returning to the mod that started it all. Let's answer the question of can I beat Pokemon Platinum but my Pokemon take damage every step? The answer is no. Even though I spent 15 minutes to get a Turtwig with a perfect HP IV, the road from the player's house all the way to Verity Lakefront still takes a lot more steps than the 22 HP my starter has. And as you can see, I made whiting out in the overworld actually possible in this game. So let's try to answer a slightly different question. Can I beat Pokemon Platinum but my Pokemon take damage every step, starting from when you get the Pokédex? Unfortunately, the fine print of this question also involves removing all renewable sources of HP healing items, such as from Pokemarts. There was one potion available so far, and this could just barely get me and my single Turtwig to the grass on Route 201, but this situation still looks quite horrible. I had no healing items left and I only had an 8 HP Turtwig with Tackle at my disposal. At least I could walk in place without taking damage to still get wild encounters, and with enough luck I could beat them while taking almost no damage. With my limited tackle PP, I managed to grind up Turtwig to level 9 where it learned Absorb. Although I now had some way of healing my HP, I still needed enough base HP to get back to the grass without potions after this first grind. I couldn't use tackle and absorb enough times to get to that level, so I resorted to catching secondary Pokemon and switch trading Turtwig. Even that wasn't enough, so the last knockout was done by Turtwig using Struggle, surviving at 1 HP. Now that my starter was level 12, I finally had some freedom to walk around and make progress. Slow progress, but still progress. This mainly consisted of healing up with Absorb against wild encounters every couple steps, while resetting if anything even slightly suboptimal happened. Sometimes a trainer would get thrown into the mix, and of course it was my job to beat those as optimal as possible as well. This was made harder by another stupid restriction I put on this already difficult challenge, being that I can't overlevel the next gym leader. In this case, that means my Turtwig can't go above level 14. There were still some positives though, like this potion at the end of Route 202, and Dawn, who saves me a boatload of steps in Jewel Life City since I don't take damage in cutscenes like these. There's one more free potion in this lovely city with a less than lovely corporation, the Pokach Company. These literal clowns make me run around the entire city, wasting both of my newly acquired healing items. This fetch quest did give me the opportunity to restock in the city's outskirts, but I was immediately forced to use that potion for leaving the city as well. After that roller coaster of potions, it was time for something more traditional about Pokemon challenges. Battles. But the rival fight wasn't that difficult, so back to traveling. And traveling through routes wasn't actually that difficult either. The actual hard part is that in this game compared to Gen 3, cities are stupidly large, so Orberg City turned out to be a death trap. There was another cutscene leading to the gym, which I could use to get into Orberg City, but then getting anywhere within the city, like to the mine, requires just too many steps. Because there was a bug in my code, you white out a step after your last Pokemon goes to 0 HP, so I could still make it into the mine, but battles were glitched, so I basically needed one more hit point for Turtwig. And I already had the solution: effort values. When knocking out a Pokemon, you don't just get experience, you also get effort values, which are basically hidden points which, if there is enough of them, increase a certain stat, and Bidoof gives HP effort values. However, these extra points only get added to a stat when leveling up, so the ones I had gotten after reaching level 14 hadn't taken into effect yet. Instead of redoing everything up until that point slightly more optimally, I used Pika Hex to force effort values to take into effect immediately. So I slightly cheated. Sue me. Or actually, beat the challenge legitimately by downloading the patch in the Google Drive folder in the description and then sue me. Everybody happy? Cool, let's move on. I could now finally get to the Orberg mine, where I constantly caught new Pokemon for additional steps to eventually reach Rourke and send him back to the gym. Of course, I had to use my one potion to get there, which I had just picked up in that mine, but at least I could now finally challenge the first gym leader. Even though Turtwig started the fight with only 4 HP, I was not worried at all. Absorb one-shot the Geodude and already got Turtwig back to 22 HP after a level up, and the only thing Onyx did was facilitate more healing for my Absorb spamming Grass type. With Turtwig now almost at full HP, I could use Razor Leaf against Gyarados for a big damage, and the second one took down Rourke's ace, getting me the first batch within less than 4 hours. This challenge is so easy. With the first gym defeated, I was allowed to level up my starter again to evolve it into Groddle. Since it now has more HP, I could get a super potion and an Abra holding an Oranberry for some additional recovery, but the increase in base HP was already enough to let me leave Orberg without using healing items. This evolution still didn't make my starter perfect though, so after beating the Galactic grunts in Jubilife, I decided to catch a Budu, which with the power of friendship immediately evolved into Roselia. It already had Absorb to stay healthy, which it used a lot better than Groddle because of its high special attack stat, and not long after it also learned Mega Drain with double Absorb's power. This didn't mean Roselia was perfect either, because with its lower HP stat, it couldn't survive all the long stretches without wild encounters to heal up against. This left only Groddle to take on Team Galactic in a Valley Witworks, but fortunately I could keep it healthy against the grunts and then easily tank the hits from Mars Barugly to get a relatively easy victory. The next route was still out of reach for Roselia, but the abundance of wild water types gave Groddle an easy time here, letting me collect some extra healing items along the way before entering Eterna Forest. For once, I was actually happy to team up with Cheryl since she fully heals my team after each battle, and she didn't even screw me over when catching some new Pokemon. This was also a nice opportunity to grind some levels, so soon enough Roselia learned Leech Seed, which slowly drains HP from the target, and the newly caught Cascoon evolved into Dustox, which later learned my best recovery move so far, Moonlight. And we're still not done, because I also found a wild Beautifly, caught it despite Cheryl's presence, and this one learned Morning Sun. Both of these moves have the amazing effect of immediately healing half of the user's max HP, with the downside of only having 5 PP, so I had to be careful with when I use them. It was still more than enough to get this tag team of bug types to the gym leader Gardenia, and since they both quad resist our grass moves, this fight was a total joke. Just Beautifly with Gust was already enough to get my second badge. Now that I could use Cut outside of battle, it was time to storm the Team Galactic Eterna building. And I hate buildings. Especially this one, since a lot of the already small amount of trainers aren't along the shortest path. I have to go out of my way to heal up against optional trainers so I can make it to the next mandatory trainer, where I like to have to reset until I get the perfect healing. Sometimes you might think, yeah, this should get me to the next trainer, but then the next NPC isn't actually a trainer and you white out. I eventually got to the Galactic admin Jupiter, but this fight is tough. It is far away from the previous trainer, so all of my Pokemon are weak, if not dead, and my only chance at victory was luck. If her Zubat stayed paralyzed for long enough, I could maybe heal up at the start of the fight, but either way, her Skuntank is a menace, so I'd have to get lucky with paralysis against that as well. After half an hour of attempts, I caved in and used some of my limited healing items before the fight, so I didn't have to get as lucky, but it still took a bit before I got the following run where Beautifly finished off Zubat while I was at almost full HP. Because Skuntank's Knife Slash wouldn't kill from here, it used Screech instead, letting me freely paralyze her as well. After sacking Beautifly, Roselia landed the Leech Seed for the last piece of the puzzle. Now Dustox could use a combination of Protect and Moonlight to stall Skuntank while Leech Seed slowly drained its HP, eventually giving me the victory. Although I now got the bike, allowing me to go through Cycling Road, there were some issues with that, so I took the long way back to Overworld City. At this point, I was quite worried about the next stop on our journey, Hearthome City. I decided to quickly boot up another save file, with a shiny Chatot, just wanted to show that off, to see how far away the Hearthome Poke Center is from the nearest grass. As you can tell from my Pokemon's HP and my reaction, it's quite far away. So, I had to grind. Oh, wait, up. Ooh, we were talking about that earlier. I might find a shiny at some point. And there is a shiny. That is a gorgeous shiny, honestly. I really like that. Wait, I can use this. I can use this. I will eventually get the TM for Drain Punch. And then I can use this. This was, of course, incredible. However, it doesn't help me right now, and I later found out it doesn't even learn Drain Punch. Machamp can only learn it via Move Tutor in Legends Arceus. So I still needed something to help me out right now, and it is not a level 1 Togepi, it's a female Combi. There was the slight issue of it not having enough HP to get from the poke center to any wild encounters to grind up on, so I had to catch a new combi with an empty slot in my party, since the honey tree where I encountered it was close enough to the grass for it to survive. Now I could slowly grind it up, which is made easier because of Sweet Scent. This allows me to instantly get encounters while in the grass, so I don't have to walk around in one tile anymore. At level 21, Combi evolved into Vespiquen, which at level 25 learned Heal Order. This is another 50% healing move, but now with 10 PP. This easily got me through Route 208 and let me heal up in the last patch of grass before Hearthome City. The suspense of making it to the poke center got built up a bit by Kira stopping me, but unfortunately there is no cutscene here where I get brought closer to my goal, so I had to walk the rest of the way. Unfortunately, this meant I had to use a potion and an orange berry, but at this point I had acquired a decent amount of healing items, so it wasn't too bad. Now that I was in the poke center, I put my high HP Groudle back on the team so I could walk around the city to get the Shell Bell, which heals a Pokemon when it deals damage, and then went to the gym. I was quite worried about keeping my Pokemon healthy in here since it's a building, but then I found a youngster Donnie, whose Drifloon is a gold mine of HP. While Leech kept draining its HP to heal my Pokemon, it used Swallow to heal up itself as well, basically giving me infinite healing. There was a second trainer with a similar Drifloon set which I used to fully heal my team before finishing it off, and then challenged Fantina. Her lead Duskull wasn't really a threat, but more just a nuisance, halving my Groudle's attack by burning it, but Bite still took it down. Miss Magus was both a threat with strong special moves, and a nuisance with Confuse Ray, making my Pokemon take themselves down. Although this caused a loss, I could of course simply reset until I got less unlucky, and Vespiquen immediately beat the Miss Magus on the next attempt. This left only Haunter, which tried to beat me with Confuse Ray as well, but with its way lower damage output it wasn't an issue, so this still ended up being a relatively easy gym battle. Before leaving Hearthome City, I grabbed the gift Eevee, making sure to reset until I got a female one for potentially breeding it later on. It was then time to leave the city behind, but I was tempted to talk to this random fisherman, and he takes you closer to the Poké Center. Would have been nice to know earlier. And just like getting into the city, getting away from here ended up being an issue as well, with the rifle waiting for me in the exit gate. Although it might seem like an opportunity to heal my team, Staravia outspeeds all my Pokemon and is too strong for a simple potion to be enough here, so I had to use a super potion to make it through. After defeating the rival, the traveling was simple enough and I even got the TM for another healing move, Roost. This smooth sailing continued until I reached the end of Route 215. I could easily heal up against the wild Pokemon, but the way to Veilstone City was being guarded by two ace trainers. Beating them with only Vespiquen was already a bit of a challenge, but just beating them wasn't enough. Any remaining damage would cost me more potions to get into Veilstone. Eventually I figured out that by first beating Dennis, I could use my two last heal orders against Maya's rods to fully heal up before taking it down. This meant I only had to use a single Orange Berry to get to the Veilstone Poké Center and basically trap myself. The two ways to go were to the next route, where I could only reach a single trainer with Vespiquen and Groudle barely alive, or the gym, which was even worse, with no Pokemon being able to reach the first gym trainer. There was no grass or water to grind nearby, so I felt pretty much stuck. Luckily, that one trainer on Route 214 was the key to making progress. After using my two acquired rare candies on Beautifly, it had barely enough HP to make it to the trainer as well, and I could start grinding very slowly by knocking out the first two Pokemon, intentionally losing against this last one, running back, and repeating the process. After doing this for 15 minutes, my Groudle and Beautifly had enough base HP that I was confident enough to actually beat the trainer and make my way to the nearby pond. Here I could fish up some water types to heal up my Pokemon enough to continue to the grass, allowing for a much faster grinding, and I continued doing this until both survivors had reached level 31. So now it's time to take on the Veilstone Gym, which is by far my favorite gym of this challenge. The only Pokemon that had enough HP to make it there was Groudle, because my Pokemon were not allowed to reach level 33 before challenging Maylene. This meant I only had a low HP level 31 Groudle to take on this entire gym, while still of course taking damage every step. It did learn Mega Drain earlier, so I could immediately use that to heal back to half HP against the first gym trainer, but after that things got tricky. There was a bit of puzzling, but not that much, and then I already had to take on the next two trainers. In doing that, Groddle evolved into Torterra, but I ended the last of those two battles with only 72 HP remaining. That sounds like quite a bit, but there was a lot of puzzling left to do, while the only trainer I could potentially heal up against had a single hero cross, which wasn't helpful. The solution here was to reset to before that pair of two trainers, going around to skip the first one and only take on the second one. After knocking out the Krogunk, Groddle reached level 32 to learn Leech Seed, giving me some extra recovery against the Machoke. After my starter once again evolved into Torterra, I could manage to do a big segment of this puzzle with just enough HP to get back to the overall second trainer and heal up once more. This recovery was just enough to do the last bit of puzzling and barely make it to Maylene. Of course, I shouldn't celebrate just yet, because I still have to actually beat her as well. Fortunately, I could use Overgrow boosted Mega Drain to get some HP back against her lead Meditite, and from there the battle was basically won. Torterra had learned Earthquake upon evolving, which let me knock out Lucario in a single hit, and after messing around a bit against Machoke, it also fell to an Earthquake, getting me the 4th badge. At this point, things were finally getting a bit easier. After KOing 2 Zubat with 1 Earthquake, I could get the HM for Fly, so Death Traps should be avoidable from now. The next bit of traveling also got made easier by this guy healing my full party, so in no time I arrived in Pastoria, the home of the Great Marsh. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because I managed to break it. Pokemon Platinum is not built around whiting out in the overworld, so if this happens while you're in the Great Marsh, you can continue doing marsh battles anywhere. So here is the first ever Platinum Safari Ball Buizel. After that tangent, I got distracted by another side quest, getting a lucky egg. By leading with a Compound Eyes Yanma, Wild Chansey had a 20% chance of holding a lucky egg, which I could then obtain by using Thief to make grinding a bit easier. However, there's also a 60% chance of it holding an Oval Stone, or 20% of holding nothing, and it's only a 5% encounter. Still, this shouldn't take too long, right? It took almost 2 hours to get this stupid egg. In this period, I had gotten 23 Oval Stones, which would only appear 3 times as often. With no more time to waste, I grinded up my Roselia, tore through another rival fight, beat up the gym trainers to stay healthy, and made my way to Crasher Wake. His lead Gyarados was immediately an issue, flinching my Roselia and knocking it out with the following hit, and although Leech Seed plus Poison eventually took care of it, a single crit from Floatzel took down Torterra. Just like against Fantina, I simply had to get luckier on the next run, and I got frozen. 3rd time's the charm though, and although Floatzel got plenty chances to crit, freeze, or flinch, Torterra withstood Ice Fangs without shenanigans and managed to finish off the Floatzel. This only left Quagsire, which was no issue at all, so that's 5 gyms down. At this point you know the drill. We travel a bit, we fight a bit. We travel a bit, we fight a bit. The next important stop is Iron Island, where just like Cheryl, Riley provided a good opportunity to grind up my Pokemon, especially some new additions to the team. This caused Togepi to evolve into Togetic and Gligar into Gliscor, which I taught a couple TMs to give it an actually decent moveset. For my next team member, I caught a Pikachu, not to use, but to breed. I first put it in the daycare with Togetic to eventually hatch a male Pichu, evolved that into Pikachu, and then bred that with Eevee. 1 Waterstone later, and I had a Vaporeon with the egg moves Charm and Wish. Did that take 2 hours? Maybe, but was it worth it? Absolutely. Once Vaporeon was fully grinded up, I left Iron Island, grabbing a shiny stone on the way out to evolve Togetic into Togekiss. With my much improved team finally ready, I took on the Canalave gym. I could use Wish to keep my entire party healthy throughout most of the gym, with its effect of healing 50% of your Pokemon at the end of the next turn, so I made it to Byron with no issue, and he may have just been the easiest gym so far. Gliscor one-shot Magneton with Dig, Steelix went down to a single surf from Vaporeon, and 2 more of those took care of the Bastiodon, getting me the 6th badge. Next up is a bunch of Team Galactic shenanigans, and I'm honestly just gonna skip most of it. Nobody cares about Saturn and Mars anyways, so on to Snowpoint City. Although the road there is pretty lengthy, there's a healing point along the way, so all in all the journey there wasn't too difficult. I was worried that the gym would actually pose a threat with all the required movement, until I realized that sliding doesn't actually damage my Pokemon, so the gym puzzle was an absolute joke. The battle against Canos was actually a bit tricky though. I ended up using Torterra to take care of Sneasel, which is just wild. But then Candace sent out a Abomasnow. I had to sack some Pokemon to get a bit of chip damage on it, so Togekiss could finish it off if Fly didn't miss because of Hustle. Twice. Let's just try that again, and Sneasel now won the 1v1 against Torterra, which makes more sense honestly. I ended up beating it with Togekiss instead, which didn't miss Fly this time, so Gliscor could then clean up the Abomasnow with Aerial Ace. Frostlass could have been a bit tricky because of evasion shenanigans with Double Team and Snowcloak, but Vaporeon simply just didn't miss any attacks, so that wasn't an issue, and the Piloswine that followed easily got taken out by a single surf. So that is 7 gyms down within 10 seconds? Apparently the timer I was using didn't support more than 24 hours, and the challenge was now taking more than 24 hours. Yay! After swapping to a new, completely functioning timer and scavenging for some items, it was time for more Team Galactic stuff. I simply focused on just keeping Vaporeon healthy for the first part to get the Galactic key, then used that to get to the main part. Because of the heal spot in this building, it was pretty easy to get to Cyrus, but he's a bit of an issue. It's not that he's difficult to defeat, but after that, I have to walk quite some steps to get to the final fight of this building against Saturn. This meant I had to beat Cyrus while keeping my Pokemon healthy, or even net gaining HP. Fortunately, Vaporeon was great offensively with Surf and Blizzard, and the combo of Charm and Wish add to its defensive prowess to make a phenomenal team member here. It ended up being the clear MVP, taking care of Cyrus's Crobat and Honchkrow, and moving on to single-handedly sweep Saturn. So now it's time for the longest part of the game, Mount Coronet. I took things slowly. Very slowly, but this did get me to the end with a mostly healthy team, including a newly evolved Roserade with Synthesis. I don't really care about the multi-battle with a rival against Mars and Jupiter because they're just pushovers and you get healed up afterwards anyways, but after that and a long cutscene, the real trouble starts. The Distortion World. This place is literally the worst case scenario for this challenge. It's a giant maze with no battles for healing, so basically damage every step hell, which makes sense with Giratina running the place. Fortunately, I had picked up quite some healing items throughout the run, but that would have been just too annoying to constantly show every time I picked up a new item, so here's my bag at the moment with all the acquired healing items. Keeping multiple Pokemon healthy would cost way too many items, so I decided to just make sure that Vaporeon stayed alive since it had the most HP, and this only ended up costing 3 Hyper Potions. But of course, it's not just about keeping one Pokemon alive, it's about the Cyrus battle at the end. Vaporeon just barely couldn't win this 1v5, so I had to chip into my small stash of revives as well to bring Togekiss and Gliscor back to life, making this a 3v5. Vaporeon could bait a Will-O-Wisp from Houndoom, heal the burn with a Raspberry, wish up, dodge his second Will-O-Wisp, and one-shot them with Surf to end up at full HP. Gyarados came in next, and this was the perfect opponent to heal up against. Vaporeon lowered his attack to -6 with Charm, while occasionally using Wish to stay healthy, which eventually turned into healing up my other team members with Wish as well. Once that was done, Togekiss could get rid of the Water Flying type with quite effective Shockwaves, and then it was back to Vaporeon to take care of Weavile. Unfortunately, Blizzard just barely couldn't get it the back-to-back kill against Honchkrow, but from here out it was just a 2v2. I tried setting up with Gliscor to sweep the remaining 2 Mons, which went fine against Honchkrow, but Crobat's Air Slash threw a wrench in that plan. With both of us down to our final Pokemon, Cyrus decided this was the perfect time to go for Toxic, but 2 Shockwaves were enough to finish off his final team member, taking down Team Galactic and almost getting me out of this hell. All I had to do was chuck enough Pokeballs at Giratina, and that is that. The rest of the traveling was incredibly easy compared to that last part, so let's just skip it. The electric gym was no issue either. I had 2 ground types which could easily heal up against the gym trainers, and not even Volkner was a threat. I simply set up a Sword Stance to double Gliscor's attack, and then just clicked Earthquake to one-shot everything while the Shell Bell kept healing small amounts of HP to eventually get me the 8th badge. With all the gyms done, it's time to talk about how painful Victory Road was. Actually, it wasn't that bad, and I am not gonna write a song about it this time. Instead, I'm gonna recommend you my video of trying to beat Pokemon FireRed, but I take damage every step. And all my other videos. Go watch them, and like all of them. Shower me with comments. Subscribe. Give me money if that's possible when you're watching this. Anyways, that was my very humble self-advertisement, so let's have a look at the Pokemon League. What, am I forgetting something? Nah. Aeron time. The plan here was pretty clear. Lead with Gliscor, double attack with Sword Stance, and start to sweep. Drapion was a bit scary with Ice Fang, but it wasn't enough for a one-shot, and from here Shellbell could slowly heal up Gliscor while it kept getting more kills, and eventually beat the first Elite Four member. The Bertha fight was slightly trickier. Roserai's Giga Ray made quick work of the Whiscash, but the part Flying type Gliscor came out second. I had to pivot into Vaporeon, who now had Ice Beam to one-shot the ground Flying type, although it still had to take quite some damage before doing so. After that, it was back into Roseray to sweep the rest of Bertha's grass-weak Pokemon. This was the point where I had to start using some healing items, and where the battles started getting harder. Flint's fire types might sound easy for my team, but he has mons like Infernape with Thunder Punch, and Magmortar with Solar Beam and crazy special attack, so this was definitely not easy. On this attempt, Vaporeon managed to surf away his Houndoom and just barely take care of Infernape as well, but it was now in range for Rapidash to clean it up with Bounce. However, he missed, and although Surf wasn't enough for a one-shot, this still gave me the opportunity to heal with Wish, which was followed by Rapidash taking itself down with Flare Blitz. Magmortar was next, going for Thunderbolt while I swapped into my ground type, which luckily survived the following Flamethrower on 21 HP before taking down both Flint's remaining 2 fire types with super effective Earthquakes. After healing up the team with my steadily shrinking stash of healing items, it was time to battle Lucian and show off my newest and probably worst team member, Kadabra. This guy sucks. Choice Spec's super effective Shadow Ball did not one-shot Mr. Mime, so I kept hoping for a critical hit or a special defense drop to finish it off after he got healed up with a full restore. When this eventually happened, my luck immediately balanced out again by Espeon confusing Togekiss with Signal Beam, so I didn't even damage Espeon before taking myself out. Torterra did slightly better by landing an Earthquake for over half HP, but it still ended up going down, so Gliscor had to live a Psychic to finally finish them off. I got a bit of a break against the Bronzong, which wasn't a match for Vaporeon, but next up was basically Espeon Part 2 Alakazam Boogaloo. Vaporeon only managed to take away just under half of his HP before going down to a second Energy Ball, so I have to rely on Kadabra. I was actually positively surprised to see it living an attack, and then it landed a critical Shadow Ball for the knockout. Lucian then brought out his final Pokemon, Gallade, which missed Stone Edge, but Kadabra went back to being garbage, doing less than half of a super effective Choice Spec's boosted attack. At least it did get a special defense drop, so after Kadabra went down, Roserade could come in and just barely miss out on the KO with Sludge Bomb. Psycho Cut one-shot my frail poison type, leaving just my low HP Gliscor, which outsped Gallade and finished it off with Aerial Ace, taking down the last Elite Four member. Since I still had enough healing items to fully heal my team, it was time to take on Cynthia in a fair and square 6v6. And with completely fair and square I of course mean that I have infinite resets, and I was sure to make good use of that. Most of this was because of Spiritomb at the start getting either an Omni Boost, a special defense drop, or a crit. My plan was to set up Leech Seed against it for passive healing, then setting up Stealth Rocks for chip damage on all incoming Pokemon, and lastly just taking care of the Spiritomb. But there are a lot of ways this could go wrong, as I just said. Eventually, I got this attempt where Terra beat the Spiritomb with roughly 2/3 of its HP remaining, bringing out Togekiss next. I first sacked my garbage Kadabra, then sent out Vaporeon which could chip them down while staying healthy with the upgraded combo of Wish Protect. Once that went down and Roserade came in, I brought in my own Togekiss which easily took care of the grass type with Fly. With Lucario up next, I swapped into Terra on a resistive Stone Edge, leaving it with just enough HP to survive an Aura Sphere and retaliate with an Earthquake. Unfortunately, this was just shy of one-shotting the Steel type, so Torterra still ended up going down, leaving Gliscor to avenge my starter. It could also bring down Melodic to below half HP before going down to an Ice Beam, letting Roserade first set up Toxic Spikes and then clean up the water type with Giga Drain. With only a Poison Garchomp remaining, I could simply sack my Togekiss to stall some turns, also giving me a free switch into Vaporeon. The MVP of the late game could then tank a big Earthquake and go for a quad effective Ice Beam to end both Cynthia's final Pokemon and the challenge. So with that, I became the new Sinnoh champion, proving that yes, I can beat Pokemon Platinum, but my Pokemon take damage every step, starting from when you get the Pokedex. If you have any ideas for other Master Challenge runs I could do, let me know in my Discord server or the comment section below, and since I already did all the plugs earlier on, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, I'll see you next time, and of course, stay alive.